Hello, Pauline.
Well,
Hello.
how are you doing? I was doing my little introduction. So I introduced a bit the talk. I'm gonna very shortly introduce Porto Academy, even if I don't need to introduce too much because Romullo did the work perfectly before. But for those who don't know, Porto Academy is a one-week summer school that will happen this year during the 20th and 27th of July. So it's a sort of very, very intense experience where you learn directly from like the invited guests that are architects from all over the world. So it's a really, really intense experience with lectures, site visit, workshop, and like a lot of interaction between professional architect and like student or young practitioner that come to assist the summer school. If all of you want to have a bit more information, especially take a look at the list of the guests because they are really, really nice. You can have more information by visiting the Instagram of the Porto Academy. So today we are here with Diego and Dario. So who is Diego? Who is Dario?
Well,
Me, I know, but not everyone knows, you know? So Diego and Dario work together in an office called the FDC, and they're like based in two different cities, in London and in Lugano. So it's really, I think for me, it's really interesting because not only for the architecture produce, but for the type of office you represent. No, these two-headed, two countries office, like, and with each one of you coming from completely different cultural background. I think it's really interesting, and you say it yourself, like it's a way to learn and exchange information from different style of working, no? I will not be too long on saying what you do and how amazing you are because we want to hear you showing us how amazing you are. But I want to say also that, okay, people that know me know that representation of architecture is very important for me. And I would like to say that if, like me, you like axonometry and line work, you need to visit the FDC website and Instagram page because it's really beautiful. You have beautiful axonometries. I love them. So welcome.
thank you. Really glad to be here. And what should we talk
about? Yeah, I want you to explain a little bit how you came to work together, being from different countries, and how is a little bit the dynamic of all of this, because I think it's a very important point today to have this international exchange for architects.
I think Dario and I have a really particular background in that we went to the same university much more local to him than to me. I had to travel half of the world to come there every day. And we were there for many years, but I guess we knew who each other were, but we weren't friends, or we didn't share many courses together. So it's peculiar in which we have the same formation, but we only really started talking about architecture and the prospect of having an office together many years later,
yeah,
like
10 years after.
10 years later, yeah. So that's
in between. You, in the end, you had the same school teaching, but then went to different direction before doing the office.
Yeah, but also at the same school, what was funny that we were attending different ateliers. What is really nice about Mendrisio is that you have like all this portfolio of amazing professor and teacher. And for example, I was attending like Olgiati, Carmen Pinos, Jean-Pierre Durig, Elie Zangelis, etc. And Diego was more with Zumthor, Mateusz, who else? Wolf, yeah. And then you end up to work for him in London.
Yeah, exactly. So the way in, or the thing that took me to London to live and work for those 10 years before we had the practice was precisely one of the professors I had in my last year. I had in what were really complicated times to the summer of 2008 to have the opportunity to go to London. And then it was it wasn't that, it was during the Olympics when we met. So it
2012,
was it was, we met by chance there. We had a couple of pints as was in London. We started talking really informally and really almost by chance about the things we shared, not only from an education point of view and formation, but actually the interest, the mutual interest we had in the place where the other was. So for Dario, London, and for me, Ticino and Switzerland as a whole. And that was really the beginning of a process of planning the intercept set of our practice that takes months.
I'm losing you. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Spanish.
Do you hear me? Okay, no, I heard you.
Yes.
We had the local connection. Are you back?
Wi-Fi, now it should work.
Perfect. So I didn't catch everything, but
It's clear more or less.
And so
it was
starting from here, like, how did you went to choose your project, or like, you know what I mean? Coming from these two very different cities, two very different countries, how do you find or decide what is aligned with your value of architecture?
I mean, we're very different, and we come from really different cultures and context origins. But that's we have found a way of somehow not only, it's not about combining, but it's about I guess bringing the experience of the other into the work we would naturally do on our own, I think. And the fact that having the studio both in Lugano and in London, that's, for example, London to me is foreign as well, because I didn't grow up there or anything. So I think from quite early on we were all about change and difference and many things, rather than the continuation of a tradition or a long growth. Maybe for Dario it's a bit different, because he's Ticino born and raised
and study, and so I had the need to go out. When you are like in a small reality, like Switzerland, like Ticino, like Lugano, is like small, and so if you spend all the time just studying, being in the same area, you really aspire to go like out of the country. And in Europe, I think London it's the best place to go. And to answer, I think what we do is we talk a lot. So away, we use a lot the phone, so WhatsApp, phone call, etc. So our way to work is really to talk between one and another and discuss all the topics, and then a topic of an issue in a project here, help to solve another there, and so on and so forth. So it's really like talking.
Mm. And a funny anecdote is that when COVID happened, and people who used to travel a lot or depended on being in the same physical place in order to collaborate, it really meant a time of crisis for I guess thousands. We're always, as long as WhatsApp was up, we experienced almost no more change. I mean, with the teaching, there was a big thing.
Change in my life a lot, because I used to fly to London every week, because more of the teaching rather than the office. Because for the office was perfect, just to phone talking and just WhatsApp. We say with finger drawing over photos, sketches. But then, of course, for teaching, you need to have the physical attendance, at least before COVID. And so I was like flying every single week. That was nice, but even if we don't look at the carbon footprints, it was quite physical intense to have 2 airplanes every week. And in that sense, helped, I think, to travel a little less, to have a little bit more of time to keep talking.
Mm-hmm. But the critical way in which we work and all that didn't really change. If anything, we had more time to talk. works. So, and now after, well, I wouldn't say after COVID, but in this stage of COVID, or where we're at, we starting to travel again, not as much as before, but everything remains on. But we appreciate more when we when we can be in the same physical space and draw together and yeah.
Of course, it's like you were prepared to this pandemic in terms of you already had the tools to work in a separate places, but it's also nice that it ends and that you can travel a little bit. If not, you could not be guest at the Porto Academy and it would be catastrophic.
Yeah, but then
So,
the other things we do, of course, talk we kept, but what I always like and was funny, and now was a little bit less during this pandemic, when I was in London, we used to go in the ground floor of our building where there is a really good bakery. So it was ordered like a cake or something. And then we have just one piece of paper and this was our rules. So when we are in the same place, there is only one pen. So only one is allowed to draw while the other is talking, no? And so every time it was like putting the pen down and taking, putting, and drawing over and over and over on the same piece of paper. And this, I have to say, is the things I was missing the most during the pandemic and the distance.
it's actually a very nice exercise because the same way, sometimes when you have a conversation, you cut the people and you have to say what you want to say. But when there is only one pen, it's like to say only one can talk at the same time. So it's sort of very good to put boundaries and say, no, I'm drawing right now, not you.
Exactly. So I have the pen, I have the right to say what I am thinking, and vice versa. And then put it down to say, okay, now.
But the people who worked at that bakery coffee shop, at the beginning they saw us work and they really came with more paper and pens. They're like, no, it's only one. We're not. We are owners of drawing instruments, but it don't need. No.
And so, are you happy to go teach again, like physical way? Like, I don't know if you are going back to London, but no, you will be to Porto for the Porto Academy. Is it something you like? For you, it makes a real difference to be able to be presential, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Even because I have to be honest, we did 1 year, not 2 years online. And this year, at the beginning of the year, we had like issue in between Switzerland and UK. I kindly asked the university to take a sabbatical because I say, guys, I really can't travel now as I used to do before. So Diego, continue. And so I really miss teaching physical presence. So for me, it's like it's like 2-3 years missing, no? And after like 2 years Zoom teaching, that it's not the best things, to be fair. I am so happy to be in Porto, and so it will be amazing for me to be there.
I'm happy. You look as happy as if you were going to be one of the students. You know, it's like, it's super great to see this. Do you already have some ideas of what you're going to do during your workshop there?
Yeah, we are 80% there. I think we shouldn't reveal much, but we have this.
Not much. Just some glimpse so people want to come.
We're planning to work with the idea of elemental voids. It's working with space as an absolute event, and space that we're trying to tailor something on the amount of days we have and the what should be a really international and very culturally rich group of students. So we're trying to work with these context-less, functionless spaces
For start,
to begin with, and to make space, to make scale propositions, even without scale to begin with, and to gradually walk back to things like scale, function, and even context.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know. So we have this. There's a merging, which is not form follows function, but function inhabits space. So we think it can be quite fun and quite immediate to get ongoing with, but touching some really critical points of that we believe, at least, about architecture and the condition of architecture in this day and age.
Yeah, and I saw, I told you the other day that I saw a phrase in the description you have in your website that I really like. That's, I read here, like, we've learned to work with strategies rather than with design. This strategy frees us from the usual constraint and enables us to approach the project with an ingenious way. And I really, really love this. And it's a little bit this, no? It's like thinking about the object, and the strategy of constructing him before, like, the scale, the size, or the use, no?
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, you said it really well. In fact, what we always say that we love about this term strategy, that it's a military definition in theory, that you help me maybe with the English is better.
It's achieving a goal in the most direct way, or in the way that takes the least resources, in a way. So now we're used to hearing about strategy almost, and rightly so, in every sort of trade or profession, but really, when one thinks about the ancient military campaigns and all of that, and how it was how to go from point A to point B in the most, it's not in the shortest way, in the most direct, but most effective way, and in a way where you expect to be counterattacked every side possible. No, and the analogy, I guess, here means all the contingencies that we are, with time and with experience, learning or trying to learn to work with. Constraints coming from regulations, budget, clients,
builders, toilet.
So this
the list is infinite, you know.
Yeah, we shouldn't. It's not about fighting against them. It's how to work with them in a way. So I guess we look back at the first competitions or collaborations we did, and they were in many ways much more rigorous and much more inflexible in many ways. And I think in these few years we have been working together. The direction, at least I see, is more about embracing informality, but in a way that actually allows you to reach your goals, or to
be strict and to accept the loss of the unexpected. So at the beginning we're more fighting about the unexpected, say, oh no, this is a mistake, it doesn't work. It's and then say, okay, I couldn't think, but I can live with it, and make things more nice and interesting.
For example, it might be a typology or a detail might work quite precisely for now, for the immediate future, but the pace at which things change nowadays and in the recent past and in the future will keep increasing. So say, why obsess with something that in 3 years might be, this apartment might be an office, or it might remain an apartment, but with the whole family trapped in there and learning and working and doing so many things. So again, it's not a capitulation towards rigor, but we think a slightly more mature of looking at things and all the, I mean, I say constraints, but all the qualities of the real world. So being a bit less idealistic and a bit more matter of fact.
You understand that you cannot have everything under control in your project, especially because you're doing it for other person, for other purpose that are not how you are. It's really important. From my point of view, it's really important to have a narrative when you create architecture, but this narrative is only for you. It's actually not the one that will happen in the real world. You don't have this under control.
We lost you.
I think you're back.
Yeah, we couldn't understand.
No worry, I was just saying that the narrative you're inventing for yourself as an architect is not the one that will finally exist in the real world, you know? So it's like something fake we invent for ourselves. So it's really good to let it go sometimes. And in that way, this way of everything you're talking about, your way to approach. Do you want to talk a little bit of one of the projects you're doing now? Maybe something you have in mind, something is nice.
The hotel, I think. Yeah, now we are exactly under construction. We started 1 week ago a hotel here in Lugano. We are doing the project 2019. So as you can imagine, a hotel and COVID stopped, or etc. And now finally we are on site. And it's a building of early 1923. And since 1923, it's a hotel. He changed like 3 or 4 owners. And every time, each owner just added bathrooms because they started without. And so it's like a collage, but like the most crazy collage you can imagine over 100 years. But what it was funny that the owner of the 70, what they did, it was like to put false ceiling, like metallic one. So you had this 1920 stucco ceiling, and they just put a metallic cool for the 70s, new goldish ceiling, that's awful now. And to the site yesterday with Diego, first things we asked, okay, remove all the false ceiling, and we are rediscovering all the elements of the 1923. So sometimes we find stucco, sometimes we are finding like we have concrete floors, we have wood beams, but wood beams with like a newspaper of the 1920s, something like this attached to it. And really now all the project just only to say, okay, whatever it happens, we take it, and we are changing the rooms, always like moving the bathrooms, how they did for 100 years. And yeah, I think it's one of the coolest projects to deal with, that every day you need to go there and then, okay, for our employee, a little bit less, they need to update the drawing like 100 times. But
and the same with the walls. You see they remove layers of plaster and a really plastic, really maintenance-free paint, and then you see stucco behind, and then the stone behind, and so the design process is actually not what to bring to the, not as much what to bring to the builder, but actually where to stop going back. No, we say, should we stop here, or should we remove here another layer and go back to like maybe the last one, no? the masonry and the stone. But it was a change, because when the project started, it was more about, okay, we're redoing a hotel from the 1920s, and all the ideas and all the references we have. Now from the outside, you bring so much into the project mentally, at least, and then when you're there and you start putting things off, you say like, actually everything's here, no? Maybe all the research has to happen inside and not as much outside. So it's really.
Well, in fact, I love a lot what you just say, that it's really not what to add, but where to stop to take out. So in every part of the project, we just to say, okay, this stucco, we cannot go farther more, so we need to keep it. And sometimes say, okay, this stucco is not good enough, we can go to the wood, or we can go to the rocks, no? That makes the building. And yeah, it's like inverting a little bit the process, and this makes the job really, really fun.
So the original designs were there was a material concept, and whatever room you ended up with, you would see the same thing. And now with this, if you're lucky to go into those 3 rooms, you will have an exposed original timber structure. If you go to other one, you'll have a concrete one, because it was 50 years later. If you go to another one, you might have something really from today, but it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it looks like super super playful, you know, it's like in every day the project can change.
Yeah. And for us, yeah.
And it's probably the best example of this thing we were talking about before. I mean, letting go or just really being more interested in what is there than all the things you might have in your head. So yeah.
Yes, and again, I think like 5 years ago would be more difficult, at least I speak for myself, to accept to say, oh no, I wanted to do this room, now I can, no? And now it's like, let's go, let's see what happened. And what I found, okay, just clean it, make it your, and it's
yeah, I guess for the change of mentality regarding the project, it's like, it's not saying, oh my God, there is a problem. It's saying, wow, you will never imagine what I saw on the project today. And it's a completely different approach, no?
Yeah. But in the office, we forbid to say we have a problem. It's a word. Right now, you cannot say the word problem. It's one of the few rules we put. Problem is not a word. It's only we have a situation that we have to deal with. And so it's funny because now they say we have a situation. Can you come and give us some comments about? And then sometimes you say, oh shit, it's a problem, and sometimes say, oh okay, it's
like all the team has to agree if it's really a problem.
Yeah, and when we say it's a problem, everyone looks and say, oh shit.
Well, it feels like a very, very good rule for me, because if not, you start to see every container, every anything like the biggest problem of the project, and it's actually a never-ending giant problem. So no problem.
Yeah. Situation. Change your life will be so fun.
Sounds good. So we will probably stop here on this wonderful, very positive advice for life. There is no problem, only situation. And I would like to thank you for being here, and I'm looking at the next talk. So the next talk will be next week with Romullo, the 20th of June, with Bêka and Lemoine. So please, everyone that's following here, join us next week. It's going to be cool. And thanks for Porto Academy for organizing all this talk, because even for us, it's really, really interesting to have this discussion with you. And thanks again for participating, and looking forward to meet you while on sat at the Porto Academy, the 20th of July.
Looking forward.
Yeah, see you all there.
Thanks for everything. Bye.
Thanks,
Ciao, thank you.
Ciao.